Hello, and welcome to Subfloor Stories, where we have conversations around faith and culture. I'm your host, Angie Ring. On today's episode, you're only going to hear from me. I thought it might be fitting to share what I see as a love letter to the evangelical church. For the last several years, God has softened my heart toward the LGBTQ plus community. And I've believed virtually since I started following Jesus that it was not a sin to be gay. It was not a sin to be transgender. It was not a sin to question your sexuality. And I think that in light of this being the month of Pride, June is Pride Month, and it's when we honor our queer community. I would just like to maybe petition the church with a few things, some of the things that I've been chewing on over the years. I guess my first question would be to those of you who are still part of non-affirming church structures. Maybe you're a pastor in a non-affirming church structure. I would ask you, what could the church look like if we affirmed the queer community? How lovely and vibrant and diverse our churches could be if we didn't tell folks that heterosexuality was the only way that they can be fully accepted. And the caveat I'll add there is many evangelical churches that are non-conforming will say that queer people are accepted and loved for who they are. However, they can't serve or lead or hold all positions that heterosexual people can hold if they choose to live a same-sex attracted lifestyle. So basically, in many non-affirming churches, a queer person has to completely abstain from being with someone that they love, someone that they're attracted to. And so what's been done in the evangelical church is queer people, if they want to be part of the church and be leaders and, be in good standing with the church, they're signing up for a life of celibacy. Or they have to try to talk themselves into being attracted to someone that they're not attracted to. So I think that now I know that this is something that I've come to see as a form of abuse. This is, it's harmful to people to sign them up for a life of celibacy, of never being able to experience sexual intimacy with someone they're attracted to. And so, what could the church look like if we just said, we believe God loves you the way that you are? I don't know that it's that far of a jump from egalitarianism. For those of you who are egalitarian, if anyone's listening who isn't familiar with that term, it just means that we egalitarians believe that men and women are equal and that we can hold equal positions of authority, that any position that a man could be in the church, a woman can be in, including pastor and all of those things. And so there's a large section of the church world that still holds to complementarianism, which means that women can't hold equal positions to men. And so those are the churches in which women can usually teach children's ministry, or maybe they're able to sing on the worship team or something like that. But I don't know that being an affirming Christian is that big of a jump from egalitarianism. if you're interpreting the verses in the Bible that say that women can't teach men, women have to walk behind men in church, women have to stay silent in church and ask their husbands to explain things to them, if you're interpreting them in culturally appropriate contexts, which is what we do, we, often we're reading the Bible as far as we're looking at the time frame, we're looking at the culture, we're looking what was going on. Did Paul write this letter to them? If so, what was happening in the church of Ephesus when Paul wrote this letter, and what has made Paul say these specific things to this specific people group? So we read those through those lenses. Why can we not read the so-called clobber verses through the same lenses? And if you do, you can understand that there's a really good case. You can make a really strong case that those verses aren't even talking, they're not even talking about committed same-sex monogamous relationships. So yeah, and I guess one other question, and this isn't, I didn't take a lot of notes because I wanted this to just be kind of the things that are on my heart. I wanted them to come out naturally. But I would ask, what would families look like? How would families look and be different if the church supported parents in raising their children in navigating their sexuality in a way that wasn't only telling them that being opposite sex attracted is the only way to go, that's the only healthy, normal, non-sinful lifestyle. How different could families look if parents were supported in raising their children without feeling like they have a scarlet letter on them, with the children not feeling like they're sinful, and with their parents not feeling like their children are sinful? How different could families look if the evangelical church did not push young adults who are same-sex attracted, push them into marrying people of the opposite sex, and then those marriages blow up 5, 10, 20, sometimes 20 years later? I know several people in my age group, and some a little older, who were part of the evangelical church system when they were young adults, and they knew they were same-sex attracted, but of course their churches told them that's, it's sinful. You can't marry someone that you're attracted to, so you got to try to fall in love with someone who's the opposite sex. And then, gosh, several of them literally had kids, and then 20 years later, one partner says, I can't live this way anymore because I'm not living who I am. I'm so unhappy. And you have a whole family exploded, and that happens. You probably all know people that this has happened to. But how different would society look if the queer community did not see the church as a place that hated them or disliked them or told them they were sinful? No matter how welcoming, please hear this, no matter how welcoming your church is, if your church will not officiate a same-sex wedding, ultimately, no matter what words you use to the queer people who come to your church, ultimately they are hearing that they are not equal. They're not equal. They're ultimately flawed. How different could things look if we just said, yeah, come on in. We love you. We are going to give you every right that Bob and Susie have as a married couple. You're going to get to run with your God-given gifts and talents in the ways that God has called you. I don't know. I guess I'm saying all of this because yeah, maybe someone who needs to hear it will hear it. It's so important. We have an entire population of beautiful, precious, beloved by God humans who won't step into a church because of the harm that the church has done to them. And I do mean harm. Harm. The church has hurt people deeply in the queer community. The church is supposed to be the safest place for us all. I mean, the church is the place that we can all go to experience community, to be accepted, to know that we are all sinners saved by grace, to find our people. The church is one of the only places that you can go and sit among folks of 100 different socioeconomic statuses and backgrounds and ethnic origins. It's amazing and beautiful and vibrant. And how much more vibrant would it be if we just loved the queer community the same way, and allowed them the same rights as the heterosexual community got in the church. One last thing. If you are a church that's non-affirming, please stop taking their tithe. If you're not going to allow them to function in the ways that they feel called to function and live their truth, live out who God has called them to be, whether that is transgender, non-binary, or in same-sex relationships, whatever that is, stop taking their tithe. Because churches will take their tithe. They're fine with that. You can give them all your money, queer folks, but can't serve. Can't teach kids in children's ministry or in Bible study. You sure can't preach from the pulpit if you're in a same-sex marriage. So, yeah, I guess this is just kind of my message to the church. Gosh, let's do better. Let's do better. My Lord, this is one giant thing in a huge list of giant things that the church has just screwed the pooch on over the years. But we are screwing the pooch on this. We can love the queer community so much better. I believe we could lower suicide rates by loving people and affirming them. I fully do. By telling folks they're made in the image of God, not flawed, not faulty. They're not made in the image of God except for this tiny, tiny thing, which turns out to be a giant thing. I mean, our sexuality is a giant thing. We can do better. So maybe this month, in honor of Pride, those of you who are loving queer folks, keep loving them. Keep affirming them. Keep cheering them on. And if any of you who are listening to this don't fully yet, would you, for me, just start praying about it? Just start asking God what God thinks. Because if you really let God speak into this topic in your heart, you might be surprised what you hear. And if you allow God to change your heart, for this community that he loves so deeply and fully, then you just might become a queer ally too. Wouldn't that be lovely if you were really able to love them the way that God does? Anyway, I will close with that. Happy Pride, everyone. My best friend, we had Pride in Columbus, Ohio this past weekend. And on Saturday, we spent the majority of it at a drag queen show. And just dancing with the folks there and singing and getting to meet all kinds of people from the queer community and allies. And I am telling you what, we had a blast. A blast. I mean, just an absolute riot. We had so much fun dancing and talking to people and just getting to know people. And so yeah, pray for God's heart for the queer community and love them well. Love them well. They have walked uphill. They've walked uphill for their entire existence. Let's love them well. Take care. Thank you for listening. All aspects of this podcast were produced by me, Angie Ring, with overwhelming support and ongoing teaching by my son, Jairus. The song you hear is titled Death Defying Joy by the artist Andy Squires. You can find his music at Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Check him out. See you next time.